are you today? I hope you are healthy, wealthy, and free and loving your life. Always. Okay. So, I want to talk about something interesting today. And how will I phrase it? I'll say, what is in a name? What is in a name? You know? Um, Vusi, there's a video, a talk, something that I watched by Vusi Tembakwayo. If you don't know Vusi Tembakwayo and you are Afro, you are missing out on a very proud, funny, arrogant, but absolutely smart, ambitious, successful black man, South African man. So what Vusi said, I'm sorry, I zoned out a little bit there. So what Vusi said was in the midst of a lot. I'm pretty sure it was a very long video that he did. It must have been one that he made in the beginning of this year. I'll see if I can find the link to it. But he mentions during this long speech about the importance of a name. You know, what is in a name? And in different aspects, let me just touch it on a few different aspects. So he gives, for example, he gives the example of the time when he met with Mandela. First time he met with him, and this was an award or a gift that he was given because he won the best public speaker back when he was in his teens. It said that by the age of 17, Vusi Tembakwayo was already recognized as the best public speaker in South Africa at 17. Y'all, some of us be trying to start that now, but it's all good. Everybody has their journey, right? So he mentions that when he gets to Tata's home or office, I believe it was his home. Okay, it was his office, I guess. And he's greeted by his secretary. And the secretary asks, so what's your name? Because you have to have an appointment. And he was alone. And she tells, he tells her Vusi. And she looks, she checks for it in her record. Sorry. It's a mask, y'all. It's a mask. By the way, if you don't have a mask, look at this beauty. Look at this. Like, I just be, okay, sorry. So, she checks her record, and what she finds, she finds his name, and she struggles to say his name. She's like, oh, Vusi, she doesn't even say his name. She doesn't even finish his name. And it hit him some type of way, because I don't remember what he said about it, but what I felt about it was, you've been in the country long enough to be able to learn how to pronounce their names. I mean, as Africans, I understand that our names are difficult in comparison to European names, but I think it's because we have learned how to say these names. We have learned them, and therefore to us also it seems easier. But we learn our names, and your name sounds strange, Europeans, I mean. And so it shouldn't be so difficult. I mean, you should learn how to say a Chinese name properly. You should learn how to say a French name with the accent, with a German name with the intonation and the accent that is appropriate for the name. Now you should say, you don't say Stefan anymore. It should be Stefan. I mean, you learn these things because what is in a name? So what he explains is just to emphasize on the weight that a name carries is what happens to prisoners as soon as they get into prison. What's the first thing that happens? Their name is stripped away and replaced by a number. You become a number. You just become a digit, a statistic, basically. And that strips away part of your humanity, because you are your name. That's the first thing that is yours. And I'll just tie that to a movie I watched the other day, Identity Thief. I forget her name. My God, she's so famous. But Identity Thief, where she didn't know her name, and in the end, she was given. Somebody found out what her name was, but she had identified with a different name, and so she refused this, and she was like, "Okay, thank you, but I don't know who that person is. This is who I am now." You know, she was, I think, Diana, or I think in the end. And now let me come back to my example. So today, as I was going to work, the receptionist, you know, there's always a receptionist as you walk in, and I have asked before the name of the previous receptionist that was there. His name is Mario, but he wasn't in this time. But what struck me or strikes me every time is that they say my name. Now I don't know if this has always been happening, but I've been noticing it lately. So I say good morning or Morgan, and they say Morgan Clara or Bonjour Clara, you know, and I'm like, okay, wow, you know, and I'm just like good morning because I don't know their name. And I asked Mario his name, but that was weeks back. And now today I really wanted to ask her, and it wasn't on my to-do list, you know, the 3 tasks of the day that I keep talking about. It wasn't on my to-do list, but it had been in the back of my mind for about 2 weeks now, because she kept saying my name, and I was like, okay, so I want to say good morning, who, you know, and I just passed as usual, because, you know, the nerve, like it was there and then it was gone. And I went to the bathroom, and then, you know, to freshen up, you know, as you just get to work. And then I decided that I would, by the end of the day, I will make sure that I find out her name. I will ask her name. And I even planned it out in my mind. I was like, okay, so I will take a break at some point, leave the office and come and just, you know, casually walk up and say, yeah, so by the way, since you know my name, what is yours? Could you grace me with the honor? Or something of that sort. And as I walked out of the bathroom, I was just like, you know what, let's just get this done now and see how it goes. I was all their nerves and all and awkward. And I go there and I ask, hey, mask on. And so I just wanted to know, could you tell me your name? And she didn't hear me at first. She was like, oh, sorry. Yeah, she's a French accent, sorry. And I'm like, what is your name? And she's like, Anais. I was like, Anais. She says, yeah, Anais. Actually, she said, Anais. And I was like, could you spell it? And she spelled it out. She was like, Anais. And I realized, the annex is the, you know, en français. And I was like, okay, so Anais. And I have an issue with remembering names, first of all. So I said Anais, and I was like, actually, the reason why I asked is because every time when I come in, you say good morning, Clara, and then I always want to say good morning, Anais, you know, so good morning, Anais. And she was so taken aback, but so touched, you know. She was like, thank you so much, that's so nice for somebody to actually ask me my name. And I'm just like, oh gosh, that is actually nice, because you can imagine the number of people that have come through there and not actually asked them their names. And I don't know if this is something that they always do, knowing people's names, but it took me, I was like, oh, yo, you know my name, you know I got to know yours. This is bothering me. Yeah, so I got to meet Anais today, and yeah, it was Anais is a nice lady. I actually got that to remember the name, like, you know, like remember it. So I remembered Anais. And then something else happened. It's just been a day of names, right? As I was on the way home, on the bus home, there was an elderly man that was coming back from the airport or whatever, and I I helped him get his bags onto the bus. And then I realized, or I didn't realize, in the course of the trip, we started talking. So we're talking and we're chatting. And in the course of it, he's been everywhere to the Caribbean. He was working in Rwanda. He worked in Malawi, he mentioned. Now he's living in Portugal, but he's German and da 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 da. It's, he's literally been everywhere. And in my mind, I'm just like, wow, why not? Why not experience everything, right? And after we talked for a bit, then he asked, so what's your name? And y'all don't know this, but I told him Clara. And he's like, oh, Clara. And I was like, but with the C, it's not German. and he's like, yeah, but that's not a very African name. And I felt it some type of way, I was just like, oh, you're right. Should I now switch it up? And but I was like, nah. So I defended myself. I actually felt myself defending myself. I was like, but I have 6 other names that are not African. Yes, I actually do have 7 names. That is the truth. 2 of them are English. The rest are not. So I told him that, but I didn't give him the African name. I don't know why I didn't tell him one of them. I mean, y'all know me. It's your girl Anyango. I'm Anyango. I don't know why I didn't tell him that, but that made me realize that I should, if I want, which I am, because this is actually part of a whole journey, the whole journey, allowing myself, embracing my Anyango, as opposed to Clara, there's so many versions of it. If I'm going to really want to embrace it, then I should be able to use it comfortably, even if somebody else finds it difficult. You see, because I've always thought that it would be easy to say Clara, because then it's easier for everybody else to say it. But then you see, he knows Kenyan names, he knows African names, he's heard them, and I think he expected that, and he was disappointed that I did not give him an African name. Whew! Can you believe that? Your girl done messed up a little bit there. Yeah, so what is in a name? There's too much. So think about it. What's your name? What does it represent? Have you known it your whole life? Did you change your name because you preferred to have a different one? What is in your name? Think about it. Okay, that's my thought for the day. I done shared it with you. I hope you liked it. Ciao.